we actually sealed the deal here in London. I believe, with like subconsciously, that when I ran into him accidentally in the sauna.
Beads of sweat dripping down his torso.
And so
I
that's
couldn't
how
say no.
That's how the sweat found its way into the movie.
I mean,
He's very sweaty in the film.
you are, Colin, and it's. I mean, in the movie, you are.
Yes.
Let's be clear about that, everyone. We've got a wonderful film that we're going to be talking about from Netflix called Ballad of a Small Player. It's the latest film from director Edward Berger, who you will know as being the visionary filmmaker behind Oscar-winning titles All Quiet on the Western Front and Conclave. The film sees Colin Farrell play a high-stakes gambler who is laying low in Macau, spending his days and nights on casino floors, drinking heavily and gambling what little money he has left. Struggling to keep up with his fast-rising debts, he is offered a lifeline by a mysterious casino employee, played by Fala Chen, with secrets of her own, who might just hold the key to his salvation as the confines of reality start to close in for him. Meanwhile, in hot pursuit is a private investigator, played by Tilda Swinton, who is ready to confront Doyle with what he is running from. Please welcome to the stage director and producer Edward Berger. Stars Colin Farrell and Fala Chen. And the film's director of photography, James Friend. This film is so fun, so great, so bombastic. It's a little different from what you've worked on before, Edward. But do tell me, you and Colin have been in discussions for this project for a while, I believe, before All Quiet and Conclave. Can you tell me a little bit about when you read the novel and when you decided you wanted this to be a project you would work on ultimately? And tell me about those conversations with Colin and how it all kind of moved forward.
I started about 8 years ago with Mike Goodrich, our producer, who gave me the book, and I read it, and I thought it was fantastic. It was a great basis for a movie. I loved the place, Macau. I thought it would be interesting to shoot there and to bring images to our screens that we don't see so often. And this character fascinated me. This person in an environment that has so much to offer, who's so fragile inside. And when you think of fragile, I thought, like, that's the best person to express that with eyes is Colin Farrell. And so we had lunch one day in LA, and it was a wonderful. But it's sort of like a dance, you get to know each other. Colin has to decide, is this gonna? He was interested. I think you were interested in the script. At least you pretended to be. And then, it has to, it has to sort of all come to fruition at the same time for him, for me, for Fala, for the time. It has to be the right time. And then it all ended up being the same. And then we actually sealed the deal here in London. I believe, with like subconsciously, that when I ran into him accidentally in the sauna. He was here.
Note to any press members in the room: if you bring up a story enough to a person, they'll end up starting to bring it up themselves. That's what just happened.
Exactly. So we were both here for the BAFTAs. He with Banshees, James and I with All Quiet, and
Beads of sweat dripping down his torso.
And so
I couldn't say no.
That's how the sweat found its way into the movie.
I mean,
he's very sweaty in the film.
You are, Colin, and it's we've spoken. I mean, in the movie,
Correct.
you are.
Yes.
Let's be clear about that, everyone.
Yes.
If you haven't seen it, watching, you will know. We've talked a little bit about this before, but it is. It feels like such a physically demanding role because he is sweating all the time. He is on the edge. He's got a heart, condition. Tell me a little bit about maybe the toll that took, or how did you kind of prepare to put yourself in that space of this kind of gambler on the risk of losing everything?
We all have a heart condition, don't we? Really, essentially, every single one of us, 8 billion humanoids. Yeah, it was. It was. I loved the read. I loved the script. I had seen Edward's work with Benedict Cumberbatch and James, who photographed and lit Patrick Melrose about 8, 10 years ago, and I loved that. And there's a lot of kind of cross-referential themes explored in Patrick Melrose, as there is. I mean, a person who's making a beeline because of unanswered emotional or psychological issues, and they're making a beeline towards their own demise without fully being aware of the kind of heft of disintegration that they're experiencing until it's almost too late. And then you find out that it's never too late. It's never too late to course correct. But it was a really physical role, I think, for everyone, including the crew. It was an incredibly intense shoot in a really good way that fed into the work, because the story just starts very. It starts loud. It starts in that bombastic way. You get a sense of opera from the opening frame, really, which Macau, generously enough, just visually lends itself to that kind of sense of the operatic. And from the first, it's a short enough film. It's an hour and 41 minutes, but it's just a very quick descent into madness, and then an ascent out of that towards a kind of redemption, with all sorts of extraordinary work done by Fala, who plays Dao Ming, who's, for my money, kind of almost the moral conscience at the center of the piece, and of course Tilda Swinton and stuff. But yeah, I was a bit raw by the end of it, but it was we had a blast in Macau. Yeah.
That's totally right. I mean, Fala, your character in this is that kind of does give Colin's character a route to redemption. Can you speak a little bit about kind of what attracted you to this role and about your character and that journey she takes and kind of giving him that kind of chance he so needed?
This is also a chance that I so needed to play such an interesting character. So I'm forever grateful to Edward for inviting me onto this journey. But it was really such a it's really personal to me to play this character, because she's a Chinese woman, but someone I also come from a world I don't really know. So I learned a lot about women who grew up in rural China and moved to a big city and finding work and struggle all their lives. And it's a story about women who didn't get much opportunity and life didn't give them a pass. So she's this, we talked a lot about the contrast in this film in each character as well. And for Dao Ming, she has this quiet strength and resilience in her, and she takes agency in making her own decision. The hardest decision that she made was surrendering. But also she has this deeply sad and alone and full of shame and all of the other side of her. So it's a really complex but fun character to play. And I didn't find the character till I stepped on set with these wonderful gentlemen, and in Lizzie's costume and all of it. So it all comes together at the end.
James, can I ask you about those initial conversations you had with Edward about what you kind of wanted to get on screen, how you wanted to approach it from a cinematographer's point of view, and how much, because Macau, as you've all touched upon a little bit, it's almost like it's its own character in this film, and I wonder how did those initial conversations go, and then kind of how did that transpire to what we see in the end result of the film?
I mean, obviously, we all start with the script, but the first thing Edward and I did is go to the place, and it was nothing like I had in my mind. Nothing actually quite prepares you for how crazy the place really is. And day and night. It's. I mean, I've been to Vegas, and it's like crazier than Vegas. So, but it's also got some like areas to it that are kind of full of beautiful character, and a lot of these locations I had to sort of recalibrate my brain into thinking what is beautiful and what's not, because like the wallpaper, the carpet, everything's like this sort of assault. And when we first went out there, to be honest, I was a bit overwhelmed. I was almost like I was going to have like an anxiety attack. But we were living in the hotels, which are lovely, sort of luxurious places. You just to go out to go to work in the morning, you walk past a Chanel and a Cartier, but at the same time, you become completely desensitized to it. So I think Edward and I just threw ourselves into the environment and just tried to sort of understand it. And one thing that really hit us both the first time we went out there was the humidity, and it's something that Edward was very keen on sort of capturing. So try to sort of make this a kind of like a 4-dimensional kind of opera. That was the other word that he kept on saying to me: opera, opera, opera. And coming from All Quiet, which obviously is a quite a sort of muted. I mean, obviously very different. And weirdly, I'm not a sort of very colourful cinematographer. It's not something that, and I learned a lot from Edward over the years of especially in the grading and the lighting. He would always say, "Let's go a bit more colourful. Let's go a bit more technical. Let's go," and it pushed me out of my comfort zone. And this was totally out of my comfort zone. So so I really had to kind of embrace it, and it was. I mean, we prepared by simply just throwing ourselves into the madness. That's all I can really say.
I mean, Macau seems to have had a deep impression on all of you, and I understand that you guys were shooting on live casino floors, and at any point, if a high rolling gambler came in, you had to be prepared to get up and move. I would imagine that adds enormously to the anxiety when you are shooting on set. Maybe can you tell me a little bit, each of you, a little bit about that? Kind of feels like you must be.
I mean, I think we're all, like as we're all kind of anxious people, and especially when you make a movie, you're kind of anxious. Am I going to get the day? Am I going to get the shot? I'm actually afraid of every shot. I think, oh my God, the next shot we're not going to get. Something is going to go wrong. Colin is going to screw it up. James is going to screw it. One of us, I'm going to screw it up. One of us is going to screw it up, and then we somehow make it, and I'm so relieved. And then I suddenly was, oh God, we have to do another shot, and the whole thing starts over again. So my main job was, besides like I tried to calm myself down by grabbing a hose on set and like spritzing the trees so that they would drip constantly, or spritzing Colin with a little water bottle so that he would drip constantly. That would calm me down.
I self-drip, by the way. I just want to be clear.
But the other thing I would say is when we were scouting for the locations, all the locations that we fell in love with within these like 5-star hotels, we were like, oh, this lobby's fucking great, and this entrance and this staircase, and they're like, well, actually that's the high roller lobby, and we're like, but we want to shoot there. And when you're making movies, you're so laser line focused, and they're like, but you can shoot in this other lobby. We're like, no, we don't want to shoot in that lobby. We want to shoot in this lobby. And so we made it kind of hard for ourselves, but in a good way, because obviously you have to be ambitious. But we had to film at the sort of dead of night, and when the high rollers were least amount like to rock up. But then we had to tear all the lights down for when they wake up in the morning, it doesn't look like a bloody film set, and then reinstate it all. So it was logistically extremely challenging,
Yeah.
but fun, at the same time. But as Ed says, the most anxiety-inducing experience.
I just have one final question. I know we're running out of time, but I really want to ask about this. And there's one scene in particular, which is the scene in the hotel room when Lord Doyle is gorging on all of this food. He's insatiable for these eating lobsters. He's eating, and drinking champagne. And could you maybe speak a little bit to the significance of this scene, and technically how you approached it, and how it speaks to the themes of the film overall? That's actually a big question.
Well, it became basically the central scene of the movie when we shot it. It was significant on the page, but when you see Colin do it, suddenly you go, oh my God, this is going to be like the turning point. Because basically what he does, he tries to feed himself on all these, lobsters and he can finally realizes that none of that is going to fill him. None of it is going to make him happy. And that's basically also the theme. James was talking about Chanel and Cartier. Those are wonderful things, or steak and lobster. But they're not going to make us happy. you know, and that is what Lord Doyle is going to have to realize during this film. And I think for Colin, I mean, maybe Colin can speak to the shooting of it, but we made sure, James and I made sure to maybe just do one take of each thing, because otherwise he'd have to eat too much. And we started with the close-ups, and it's a wonderful collaboration between James and Danny, the operator, and I, and Colin. I think Colin was pretty quiet that day. Usually he's like very, you know, like embracing everything. And this day he was like really laser focused and quiet. And so you kind of also, as a crew, you're aware of that to make sure that we don't disturb him in that, you know. But so it's a and he guided us through what he was going to do, and Danny and James then captured it in the film.
Yeah, it just messed up with my intermittent fasting that day, so that's why I was quiet and sullen. No, as Ed said, it was kind of a turning point for the character, or the story, or his journey. It was kind of the moment where he realized that he was bereft of any answer or any context to where he was in his life. He had a conversation with Fala's character Dao Ming at a certain point where she spoke about Naraka, the hungry ghosts of Buddhist hell, and how no matter what they eat, they've got long faces and wide mouths, and no matter what they eat, they can't fill themselves. And he's beginning to suspicion that he actually is possibly in a literal hell. So he's trying to prove to himself that he's not, that he can fill himself, that he can gorge to the point of fullness, and he can't seem to. So it was kind of an aggressive culmination to a free fall that he had been in up until that point, I suppose, the scene. And yeah, I was 10,000 calories in by lunch. It wasn't much fun, even though the buffet was extraordinary, and there was, as you said, lobster tails and gateau cakes and all sorts of lovely French bread with salted butters and things. But they kept it. It was like James is saying, though, the chaos of the film. Every day there was a certain amount of chaos. It was either logistic, or it was performance, or it was emotional or psychological, or it was interpretive, because we were various different cultures trying to communicate together and come together with different languages. And it was, the whole thing was an exercise in, as film tends to be, very organized chaos. But it was a lot of chaos this time, and it was kind of wonderful because it fed into the film.
Well, it certainly delivers. It's a wonderful
Thank
film.
you, love.
Thank you so much,
Thanks for taking
everyone,
the
for
time.
being here. Congratulations.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.